Section 12.3, Solving Addition Equations. What we are going to do today, first of all, I want you to go ahead, you can hit pause and you write this down first, so go ahead and do that. But what I want you to do is find the value of x. Do that for letter A. Okay, I'm guessing that you got the answer of 5, because 5 plus 3 equals 8. Go ahead and do letter B. And again, I would assume that you ended up getting what plus 5 will equal 2. That's the question. What plus 5 will equal 2? This one might be a little more difficult for some of you. The answer to this is a negative 3 plus 5 will equal a positive 2. Unlike signs, you subtract, and that's how 5 became, or how negative 3 plus 5 became 2. And the question is, how did you find the answer to the variable? Okay, most of you tried to use mental math, I'm guessing. Most of you on this one might have struggled a little bit, thinking that 7 plus 5, and then you think, well, wait, you gotta subtract, and you're thinking maybe, I'm not sure. We'll have more discussion with this in class as to some of the actual answers we get for it. Okay, hopefully, being that we just finished our integer unit, you would know that that was a negative 3. So, how did you find the answer to the variable? Well, let's look at this next part. It is called the inverse operation. Operations that undo one another. So how would you undo addition? Well, you would subtract. How would you undo subtraction? Being that it's inverse operation, inverse meaning opposite, you would then add. How would you undo multiplication? You would divide. How would you undo division? You would multiply. Okay? Sorry. So, inverse operation is undoing. Okay? It is doing the opposite. So, subtraction property of equality states that if you subtract the same number from both sides of the equation, the sides remain equal. For example, if we have 5 equals 5, if we subtract 2 from both sides, we still get a positive 3 equals positive 3. They still remain equal. Same thing in the equation itself. If we have x plus 7 equals 2, and we subtract 7 from both sides, okay, subtracting 7 from here, subtracting 7 from there, x will equal negative 5. So if we plug negative 5 into the value of x, that's how we get a positive 2. Okay, this is what we're doing today. Okay, subtracting the inverse operation, doing the opposite to both sides to get that variable. Okay, so let's try a few. So solve each equation and then check your solution. Does it hold true? Okay, so I'm going to do this first one with you. Remember, inverse operation means that you're going to do the opposite. Now, where you always do the opposite is that we are trying to get x by itself. So if we're trying to isolate it, then we're going to start on the side that has the variable. So we always start on the side with the variable. Variable could be on the left side or the right side. Always start on the side with the variable, and we're going to undo it. Since it says to add a positive 6, we're going to subtract a negative 6 from both sides, okay? Or add a negative 6, or you could say subtract 6. Means the same thing. So now you're going to do the inverse again. Well, what does 6 plus a negative 6 equal? Or 6 minus 6? Well, it equals 0. It has to equal 0. Okay, we don't write 0, we just simply write the value x, because this got rid of it. It canceled itself out. Now we have 2 minus 6. Okay, now the question is, how did we get minus 6? Well, it's really that you're adding 6, or excuse me, adding a negative 6 to both sides. So what is 2 plus a negative 6? Well, it's going to equal a negative 4. Okay, a negative 4 is how we're going to solve that. And I know that when you go back to this and you say, well, but we just got done saying that, we just got done saying that you're going to do the opposite and that you're going to subtract 6. Well, subtracting 7 and adding a negative 7 is actually the exact same thing. And we talked about that when we would change, when it was, let's say, 5 minus 7, it was 5, we changed it to addition, opposite of the second, so it was adding a negative 7. Okay, adding a negative 7 or subtracting. Okay, this was the problem. 5 minus 7, adding, because it changes it to addition, opposite of this, which is now a negative 7, those are equivalent. And to get your mind thinking in the correct direction, because of the negative numbers, to help clarify things, you're going to want to think of this as always adding a negative, the opposite sign to each side. So that's what we did on this. Okay, you're adding its opposite. Okay, so add its opposite. Add a negative 6 to both sides, and now it's 2 plus a negative 6. Unlike signs, is going to subtract, and since 6 is larger, it's going to stay negative. So negative 4 is my answer. Now plug it in. Does 2 equal a negative 4 plus 6? And it absolutely does. This right here equals 2. Okay, it equals a positive 2. Therefore, it is correct. So let's try another one. We have, again, start on the side with a variable. Okay, go ahead and hit pause. I'm going to let you try this first. So you start on the side with a variable. Okay, so since this is adding a positive 5, we're going to add a negative 5 to both sides. Draw a line under it. X is going to come down because this equals 0, so we're going to leave it. It got rid of it. And now 6 plus a negative 5 is going to give me a positive 1. So now we can plug it in. Does 6 equal 1 plus 5? And yes, 6 equals 6. So my answer again is that 1 equals x. So let's try the next. Go ahead and solve this. Now, we start now on the left side because the variable is on the left. And we're going to do the opposite. So since it's adding 3, we're going to add a negative 3 to both sides. X comes down. 3 plus a negative 3 is 0, so we leave it all alone. And now we have a negative 2 plus a negative 3. Since they are same signs, we add. Sign stays the same, so it's negative 5. Let's check our solution. Negative 5 plus 3, does that equal a negative 2? And it does. Negative 2 equals negative 2. Okay, let's try the next. Go ahead and hit pause and try it. So now we have, again, start on the left because of the variable, and it is a positive 3, so we're going to add a negative 3 to both sides. Y, we're going to bring down. It equals, and again, this is 0, so you're not going to bring anything down. And 12 plus a negative 3, different signs, so therefore we're going to subtract, and we get 9. And again, 3 plus 9 does equal 12. So that is correct. Let's try the next one. Go ahead and hit pause. So now we have, again, variable on the left, so we're going to start with 4 and add a -4 to both sides. C is going to come down in different signs, therefore you're going to subtract, and we get 1, and 4 is larger, so it is negative. And so we'll check our solution. -1 plus 4, does that equal a positive 3? And this does equal 3. Okay. Again, the key to this is to always start on the side with a variable, and if this says that it's a that it's a positive 4, then we're going to do a -4 to both sides. And always think of it as adding its opposite to both sides. Okay, that's your inverse operation. If you have any further questions, please let me know in class. One of the main reasons, and some of you may think, well, why are we not just saying subtracting 4? The reason for that is because when we begin the next lesson with subtracting these problems, for example, C minus 4 equals 3, then we're going to want to make certain that we know that this is going to, because this is going to end up becoming a positive and that's a negative, so you're then going to be adding a positive 4 to both sides. It gets a little more complicated, and we've found through the years that it makes a lot more sense to students if we can talk about the integers and always adding its opposite to this, so that we know that this can now be 7 plus a -4 equals 3. Okay, so it'll make a little more sense to you as we continue. And again, algebra is very abstract. We understand that. This is definitely a true test of what's ahead of us, but this is all the foundation of what we're going to be doing from now until you finish your high school career doing algebra. So very important stuff, and it all has to be done in a very organized manner as well. So make certain that you are showing your work and doing just as I say, because it will make things easier as we go on and get into two-step equations and go further than that. So have a good evening and good luck.